Hey, my name's Helianthus Cryptid, or Nephilim if you'd prefer. Welcome to my cozy corner of the internet. In this video, I will be reading the second chapter of eijirou written by XX Cypress Minerva XX on AO3. This chapter's summary is as followed. How foolish he was, thinking he could bring honor to his family. He was a monster, a disgrace. Just like the matchmaker said, he is not a hero. Before I begin, I have to thank Minerva for shouting me out in the latest chapter of eijirou. I appreciate it so much. You have no idea how much it means to me. Now I implore you to sit back and relax whilst I read to you. Chapter 2. Pathetic. eijirou stared down at his costume as he drew nearer to the temple. He had tried to make it simple, but simplicity was never really his thing. His chest was bare, save for a torn strap that ran across his chest. The two red gear-like shoulder pieces clung to his skin, and his long black sleeves rubbed uncomfortably against his sides whenever he swung his arms. His boots scuffed up dust wherever he walked, getting dirt all over the front of his baggy pants. In one final attempt to make himself presentable, he smooths the torn fabric hanging loosely around his hips, before fiddling with the bright red R that kept it all together. The costume was still a bit big for him, but he would grow into it, right? He had been working out. It was only a matter of time before he was as muscular as his dad. His headpiece dug into his scalp, and he can't help but frown at the dark strands of hair that fell mettily over his face. Maybe he shouldn't have worn this. He looked silly, bland even, with hair like this. It didn't fit the energetic, confident costume he was wearing. Maybe he should have taken his chances with his father's armor instead. It was more traditional for a son to wear his father's armor, but considering the fact that both Tamaki and eijirou weren't Fat Gum's biological children, tradition tended to be overlooked. Besides, even if they had followed tradition, his father's armor was way too big on him. After the last war, their father had lost the ability to become fat again. He was still muscly and really manly in eijirou's opinion, but that didn't matter. His father wouldn't last long in a battle, even with his skills in hand-to-hand combat. Is this all? The overweight man's voice boomed over the crowd of people, and the girls waiting their turn flinched under the man's criticizing glare. One girl with a round face and deep brown eyes glanced at him curiously, her bright pink fingertips fidgeting with the handle of her umbrella. And despite everything, he couldn't help but think he'd seen her before. He waves as he passes, grinning. She offers him a small smile in return. Off to a good start. He kneels next to another boy about his age, curly green locks covering most of his face. He is trembling violently, bottom lip quivering as he mumbles what sounds like fighting tactics. Distinctly he can hear the matchmaker say something, but Kirishima leans closer to the other boy. Hey. The boy jolts, and then he glances up at Kirishima, emerald eyes flashing in the sunlight. Hi? The boy's freckles seem to disappear as he continues to tremble and shake violently, and the boy bites his bottom lip to stop it from quivering. The matchmaker says something again, this time louder. The name's eijirou Kirishima. What's yours? The boy blinks, as if nobody had ever asked him before. My name is Zuku Midoriya Yagi. eijirou Kirishima! The matchmaker shouts angrily, slamming his brush on his clipboard in rage. Both young men jolt, one stuttering out apologies and the other looking just about ready to pass out. eijirou moves quickly past the group of girls, face aflame before entering the temple. As he passes the matchmaker to enter, he hears the matchmaker grumble. Terrible listening skills. No good. No good? eijirou squares his shoulders, trying to ignore the small crack in his resolve. The overweight man follows him inside, slamming the door with a loud bang. He unconsciously flinches at the loud sound, hands crumpling into fists in his efforts to stand straight. Keep it together, A. They're counting on you. The matchmaker circles him, prodding at his ribs, his chin, his chest with a fat finger, wrinkling his nose in disgust at Kirishima's costume. "What's this abomination?" The matchmaker hisses, gesturing at his clothes. "Why did you tear up your clothes before visiting me?" He tugs uncomfortably at the torn strap across his chest. "I didn't tear my clothes, matchmaker. This is my hero costume. I hope to be a great hero one day." "Don't make me laugh!" the matchmaker snaps. "You're still as scrawny and pathetic as ever. Now sit down before I throw you out by that filthy hair of yours." Eijirou's face reddens with shame, and he sits wordlessly at the small wooden table before him. The matchmaker scowls at him as he sits, the loud thump sending a vibration up the young man's spine. "The village knows the truth about you, boy," the matchmaker says quietly, booming voice becoming thunderous. "You've dishonored me just by showing your pathetic scarred face in town today." Without knowing it, his hand drifts to his eye, where a small scar rested. He had gotten it from his mother, a glass bottle. His quirk had awoken when he had tried to cover his face. This scar was a constant reminder of the dishonor he had to shoulder the moment he rode into town. "You are a disgrace to Taishiro Toyomitsu's name." The matchmaker's words startle him, and he can feel something cold and dark start to build in his chest. "The only reason I let you come here was because of Toyomitsu-san's insistence. But even he cannot change my decision." Eijirou's hands go numb as his heartbeat pounds loudly in his ears. His vision goes blurry from tears, the cold and dark feeling in his chest rising to his throat. He chokes out a deep breath. "Father, please give me the right words to say. Please." Eijirou cuts himself off, brows furrowing in frustration once more. "I assure you that as a man I am prepared for marriage to honor my father's name." "He is not your true father." The matchmaker's words land like a slap. "You are weak and not fit to take a wife, much less fight." "That isn't true," he says, voice rising in anger. "You're dismissed." The matchmaker's eyes narrowed. "You are not fit for marriage any more than your monster of brother. Leave my presence." "My brother isn't a monster." He rises, looming over the matchmaker and casting an intimidating shadow across the floor. But the matchmaker doesn't flinch, a smirk spreading across his pudgy face. "I am worthy of getting married. I am worthy of your time. Please give me a chance." "I already have," the matchmaker growled up at him, "and you have failed." He shuffles the papers on his clipboard, scratching out a few notes with his brush. "You're dismissed. You will never bring honor to your family as long as you deny the truth. You are no man." "I am a man," Eijirou says as he clenches his fist so hard his nails dig into his palms. "I am Eijirou Kirishima, and I will bring honor to my family." "You're a disgrace is what you are," the matchmaker interjects, deep green kimono shifting under his pot belly as he scribbles down more notes. "You may look like a man, but you will never bring your family honor!" And then the dark, cold feeling Eijirou had been trying to ignore explodes in his chest, and the young man sees red. He needs to show him he can be strong. Harder, become an unyielding force, a bulldozer. Harder! His fists raised high over his head as he shouts, "I am unbreakable!" The wooden table crumples like an aluminium can under the force of his fists. Splintering and crumbling into a heap of wood, the matchmaker yelps, scrambling away from the mess as fast as his stubby legs would allow. Eijirou's breaths are laboured and heavy. He blinks hard, taking in the horrific sight before him. His hardened hands creak and grind loudly as he unclenches his fists. He touches his face as his fingertips grind against his forehead, instead of cutting the smooth skin. I am unbreakable. His entire body was as hard as a rock. Shock and fear floods through his veins, and he steps back, eyes searching in a panic for a sign that this wasn't real. But it was real. He wasn't dreaming. His foot breaks through the wooden floor, and eijirou struggles to yank it out, hands ripping through his costume. Why wasn't his quirk turning off? There was a fear-filled squeak from the corner, and when he looks, the matchmaker cowls under his concerned gaze. No, wait! Monster! The matchmaker shouts, pointing an accusatory finger at him. You nearly killed me, you filthy creature! He steps forward in concern, trying to force his quirk to deactivate, but it's as if his body has shut down. Please, forgive me. Here, let me help. Get away from me! The man shrieks. I'll call the guards, you know I will! Let me help. Monster! Beast! The matchmaker wailed, clawing at the wooden flooring. Somebody help me! eijirou stepped away from him, eyes wide with fear. He was a monster. He got angry. He lost control. He dishonored his father, his brother. He bursts out of the temple and runs, head bowed and eyes dull. He can hear his name being called, but it doesn't reach him. He pushes past anyone who got in his way, his quirk finally deactivating. He runs past Togata, Tamaki. They grip his arms, lips forming his name, but he doesn't notice. He hoists himself onto Tokoyami and he yanks the reins hard. He rides home, tears streaming down his cheeks. How foolish he was, thinking he could bring honor to his family. He was a monster, a disgrace, just like the matchmaker said. He's not a hero. As eijirou guides Tokoyami back into his stable, he sees his father limp out to meet him. Taishiro smiled, freezing in his advance towards his younger son as eijirou turns his head away, hiding his face in Tokoyami's neck. Taishiro's shoulders slump. He knew what happened. Eijirou, he breathes, hobbling back into the house. I'm so sorry. I couldn't help you. I failed you, my son. I'm not even a man, let alone a hero. eijirou says somberly, glaring at his reflection that shone from the koi pond's clear water. He sat on a stone bench underneath a cherry blossom tree, but the gentle wind and rippling water did nothing to cool his flushed face. He slams his fist onto the stone bench in frustration. Why am I such a screw-up? After all Dad did for me, I didn't. Tears well in his eyes as he stared down at his reflection. He tries desperately to see who he really was, but all he saw was him, the weak, pathetic little boy who actually believed he had a shot at being anything else. Would it be easier if he just gave up on honor? Could he be a better son? His heart thuds painfully slow against his ribcage. No, he'd be living a lie. The longer he stared at his reflection, the more lost he felt. Sniffling, he dried his eyes with his hero costume sleeve. No one would want to listen to him cry, right? Then he feels someone nudge up against him. He glances up, eyes puffy and red, and Tamaki offers him a small smile. Tamaki knew that eijirou was devastated. Ever since first meeting him when they were young children, he knew it was his dream to honor his family, and the very second eijirou had met him, he had never ceased to shower him with compliments about how great he was despite Tamaki's doubts. Both had been through so much together. Hey, Tamaki says, voice trailing off at the end. I'm not crying. Don't look at me. eijirou's voice is thick from all the crying. Tamaki averts his eyes. Listen, okay? Glancing upward, Tamaki noticed a bud that had not bloomed. You know, Mirio told me something when we first met. Tamaki, I know I messed up. eijirou sniffled. You don't have to pity me or anything. I have no honor, and you do. I am a disgrace to this family. He rubs his eyes forcefully. Then a hand gently touches his shoulder, and his head shoots up. Tamaki's face flickers and smiles gently at him. You're You're not a disgrace. And you do have honor, eh?
Tamaki would never lose faith in eijirou. Not ever.
You told me that once.
Eijirou jerks his face away, glaring back at his reflection. That was a long time ago.
But it's true,
Tamaki says firmly. He points at the bud with a shaky hand.
See that bud? The one that hasn't bloomed?
He sniffles, swiping at his eyes with his thumb, and his crimson gaze drifts up to the tree. Yeah, late bloomer, he says finally, as he swallows the lump that had formed in his throat.
It'll be the most beautiful. You know why?
Tamaki asks, wincing as eijirou's shoulders slump, lips twisting into a frown. His dark hair falls over his face like a curtain. I don't know. Photosynthesis?
Yeah, that too, but...
Tamaki stares at his own reflection for a while, trying to think of the right words to say. He had something going with that flower, but now he thinks about it. It made no sense.
Hey, it's okay to be scared.
Eijirou stares at his brother in bewilderment. I'm not scared.
I know you,
Tamaki says, and that was enough to silence him.
You're afraid of failing us, of being scared, and you shouldn't be.
He shifts towards him, eyes blazing with a blue fire eijirou had never seen before.
Being a man isn't about having confidence or not knowing fear,
Tamaki says, trembling.
It's living a life with no regrets. I thought you knew that already.
Eijirou's eyes brim with tears. He leans forward, choking down a sob. His hands tighten into fists, bunching up the fabric of his pants. Tears drip onto his hands, splattering into the pond. The water ripples, and the koi, who had been staring dully at each other for as long as he could remember, panic and swim in circles. Tamaki pats his shoulder, cool hands rubbing circles on his flushed skin.
Don't give up, eh? I know you'll bring honor to us.
Ah! Eijirou tackles him in a bear hug, and Tamaki nearly falls off the bench under the force. The younger man's tears soak his shirt, but he doesn't mind that much. He smooths Eijirou's hero costume and sighs softly through his nose.
You okay?
The shake in his younger brother's shoulders had ceased, but he had made no move to pull away, and Tamaki wasn't bold enough to push him off, so he just sits and waits for Eijirou to respond. Eijirou does eventually pull away, sniffling. He offers his brother a small smile, drying his eyes with his sleeve. Yeah, I'm okay. He would live a life without any regrets. Thanks, Tamaki.
Sure.
And would bring honor to his family. But the author wasn't going to let this heartfelt brother moment continue. Where was the fun in that? The sudden sound of drum beats startles them both, and Eijirou scrambles from his place on the bench. He searches for the source of the sound, eyes landing on the large crowd of people rushing toward the village square, their panicked voices ringing in his ears. A trembling hand finds his wrist, and before he knows it, Tamaki is practically dragging him toward that direction. He stares at his brother in confusion, but he doesn't dare tug his hand away. Something was wrong. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments below. All credits go to the original creator of this fanfiction, which is XX Cypress Minerva XX on AO3. I would highly appreciate it if you gave this video a like and you subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to be notified of when I next upload. There is no pressure to do so though. Thank you for visiting my cozy corner of the internet. Keep on growing, my sunflowers. Mwah.